Okay, so you're welcome to the section 1 of our project communications management knowledge area. So in this section, we'll be discussing plan communications management. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into the meat of today's matter. Now, a quick overview of what plan communications management is all about. So as a project manager, you have to understand this process very well. All right, the plan communications management process is a critical initial step in ensuring effective communication throughout a project. So this is the first step that you're going to take. It is the initial step that you're going to take, because like I already said, effective project execution requires timely, quality, relevant information. Okay, so everyone in the team works with the information that they have. Okay, so if everybody is going to perform in their best, all right, according to the project's requirements, they have to have the necessary information at the right time. Okay, so planning your communications management is the initial step to ensuring that the communications that you're going to be having throughout the project is top-notch. Now, the plan communications management involves developing an approach to communicate essential project information to stakeholders. All right, so the information that you're communicating to stakeholders has to be essential, it has to be relevant to what they are doing. Okay, now the primary aim is to define the communications requirements and set the guidelines for how communication will be handled. All right, so you define what is required for effective communications, and then you set the guidelines for how these communications will be handled. All right, now by the end of this section, you should be able to firstly understand the objectives of plan communications management, and then also you will be able to identify the inputs, tools and techniques, as well as the outputs of this process. And then lastly, you understand how this process contributes to the overall project success. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so what are the objectives of the plan communications management process? Now, the primary objective of plan communications management is to establish a clear plan that outlines who needs what information, when they need it, and in what format. So as the project manager, you already have your team in place, you have your stakeholders in place, you understand the stakeholder requirements, you understand the objectives of your project. Okay, so now for the success of the project, all right, and to be able to actualize the objectives or achieve the objectives of your project, you need to understand that, okay, you need to establish a clear communication plan. All right, and then that communication plan is going to involve who among your stakeholders need information. All right, of course every one of them needs information. All right, so what sort of information do they require? Okay, at what point in the project do they require the information, and in what format do they require the information? Do you understand that now? So you're going to have all this clearly defined, all right, before you start dishing out any form of information to whoever that is within the project team. Okay, so that's the primary objective of the plan communications management. Now this process ensures that communication is tailored to the needs of stakeholders reducing misunderstandings, and enhancing collaboration. Now, this is very critical to successful project execution, because one of the reasons why projects fall out of place and most times turn into failure is lack of clear communication, misunderstanding, all right, incoherent communication. Okay, and this is really huge. It's a very important area. Okay, because when someone doesn't have the right communication, the person could take the wrong action, and when you take the wrong action, you get the wrong results. All right, and that will not be good for the project. Okay, so let's move on. Now let's look at the inputs in this process. Now, firstly, we have the project management plan. Now, the project management plan provides the foundation for developing the communications management plan. The project management plan is the overall plan of the entire project. Okay, so you must have that in place as an input for you to be able to determine, okay, what form of information is needed by the people who are involved in this project. And then from there, you can now start developing the communications management plan. How are you going to deliver this information to these people? Now, second is the stakeholder register. All right, this identifies the individuals or groups that will require communication. Okay, so having gotten your project management plan in place, then you also need the stakeholder register. All right, stakeholder register is an input in this plan. The stakeholder register is simply a list of everyone who is involved in your projects, whether they are individuals, organizations, associations, whoever is involved in your project. Okay, and perhaps what is the level of their involvement, because that's also going to determine the kind of information that they are going to be requiring. Okay, so stakeholder register is an important input. Then you have the enterprise environmental factors. These are external factors that can influence the communications management plan, such as industry standards. Okay, so when you are developing your communications management plan, and then you're trying to define what formats that you're going to use in communicating to your team, you have to understand what are the industry standards. Okay, who are the people that you're working with? All right, different subject matter experts, different professionals may have different ways that they communicate. Okay, for example, if you're working with engineers, okay, there are some terms, all right, that's endemic among engineers. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. All right, they have their own lingua franca, they have their own ways of communication. Just like when you have doctors communicating, all right, they have, you know, the terms that they use. So you have to understand what are the lingua franca, the terms, okay, that they use, the people that are involved with you in your particular project. Okay, and then you also have to understand what are the standards. So you work with those standards. What are the codes? There are codes that they use in their communication. Of course, you have to understand all that, so that you can also use it while communicating with them for better understanding. Now, we also have organizational process assets. These are internal factors like communication templates or historical information. So you're also going to need this. All right, if there are templates for communication within the project organization, that's fine. So you can adopt that. It even makes your work easier, so you don't have to start reinventing the wheel or starting from scratch. So if there's already a template in place for information dissemination, fine and good. So you just take advantage of that. Now let's look at the tools and techniques for plan communications management. So firstly, we have the communication requirements analysis. This helps to identify the information needs of each stakeholder group. Okay, so you already have your stakeholder register. You already know the individuals and the groups that are involved in your project. So you have to know what are the information needs that they have. What sort of information do they require to do what they need to do in the project? Okay, so that's where this comes in, communications requirements analysis. You have to now do an analysis of what information that they require. Now you also have communication technology. This specifies the tools and platforms that will be used for communication. So when you understand the information needs, you also have to know the tools and the various platforms that you can use for the communication. All right, so is it going to be via text? Is it going to be via email? All right, is it going to be via phone call, or is it going to be face-to-face communication? All right, so different formats, different platforms, or is it going to be through maybe any such tool? We'll have various tools these days. We have Slack. All right, is it going to be on Zoom? Is it going to be a video conference call? You know, is it going to be using Teams? You know, so there are different tools, different platforms that you can use. So you have to specify the particular technology for your communication. Then you also have communication models, and this helps in determining the most effective communication method. Okay, so of course you're going to have to maybe do some testing. All right, do some testing to be able to get feedback and understand which communication method is most ideal. Then you can stick with that. Stakeholder analysis. This assesses the influence and communication preferences of stakeholders. Okay, so you have to understand what are the influence of your stakeholders, all right, over the project and over the entire project team. Okay, and then what communication preferences that they have. Okay, so that's why you have to do the stakeholder analysis, stakeholder assessment. All right, so what are the outputs from this process? Firstly, you have the communications management plan, and this is the primary output. You know, of course, it details the communication strategy, the methods that you're going to be using for the communication, the frequency of the communication, as well as the responsible parties, the stakeholders, those who are going to be needing the information in what particular format. All right, so this is the most important output you have from this plan communications management, which is the communications management plan. And this is what you're going to use for all your communications throughout the project. Now you also have the project document updates. These are updates to various project documents based on the communications plan. All right, so of course, you know, different projects have different documents, all right, and different processes and methodologies that are used in those processes. Okay, so when you've drawn up your communications management plan, and then if there are documents that needs to be updated based on this current project that you're handling, then of course you're gonna have to get that done. Okay, all right, so what are the key takeaways from the communications Alright, so what are the key takeaways from this process, the plan communications management? Firstly, planning communications strategically is essential for project success. So as a project manager, you have to plan your communication. It's not just something you just delve into, all right, start disseminating information. No, it doesn't really work like that. You have to plan the way you're going to communicate, all right, who is involved in this project, what information do they require, when do they require this information, how do they require this information, what methods are you going to use to communicate to them. Okay, so all these things are very, very essential for effective project management. A well-defined plan improves stakeholder engagement, minimizes misunderstandings, and facilitates a smooth flow of information throughout the project life cycle. So you can see that you have to define your plan very well for optimum stakeholder engagements. All right, you're going to be engaging your stakeholders, so you want to have the best engagement from them. You want to have as minimal misunderstanding as possible, and then of course you want to have a smooth flow of communication back and forth throughout the project life cycle. So that's why this process is very, very important. So that brings us to the end of the plan communications management process. I hope by now you've learned how to plan your communications management for successful project execution. So I'll see you in the next class. In the next class, we're going to be discussing how to manage communications. All right, so I'll see you there. Cheers.